Namaste. Let's take this moment just to connect to the energy of Satsang. And just have that intention to connect to the energy of Satsang, and anything that is in the way of connecting to be released. Without connection, there is no Satsang. Om Namah Shivaya. So we have a candle lit for each element.
Something was wrong. Yes, something did go wrong.
We had one candle for each of the 5 elements, and then we had nothing.
The great Lord reabsorbed it all.
It was kind of dramatic in here.
It was. Let's see. Oh, it says end stream. Maybe it'll just turn back on again.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh. Oh,
There we go.
Is it back on again?
Yep.
same link.
Okay. Can you go check yours, Terry, just to make sure it's
Check
done?
my
Yeah,
computer.
Make sure you can see it streaming. Before I send them a note to tell them.
Yay! We're back on. Thanks, guys. That was odd.
Hi.
Oh, no.
Can I say hi?
Yes.
Hi.
Looks like I'm getting it now.
All right.
Ready? Are we on?
Looks good.
5 minutes.
All right. So we had a brief power outage. Oddly enough, I was going to talk about how the elements are all created by and still not just things created by Shiva, but they still are the body of Shiva. And so these are created, they're sustained, and they're dissolved by that power. So all elements are controlled by that gigantic force. And so each element, if you've noticed, that your body's built out of each element: earth, water, fire, air, space, and you can add mind. Each element is not owned by you. The reason why you feel like you have some control is because the spark that is the self, is the divine that operates through them all. So you are in part the elements, and you are in part the mind, and you are in part the pure consciousness that is beyond it all. But in your experience, it's more of the limited perspective. So the feeling is that you're not the element, or you feel like you are the element, but you don't see that it's actually just borrowed form, borrowed matter. It's not yours. So where the little character starts thinking that it owns something so small, and it makes such a big deal out of it. Even if you owned the earth and you thought that you were amazing and everyone looked up to you, what a small achievement that is in the sense of the entire cosmos. You didn't even conquer one loka. There's so much more. So when you worship at any time, it's kind of like going back to the understanding that this is all borrowed time. This is, elements are a part of time, so they come and go with time. You've watched your body come, and you're watching it go. In the beginning, more or less of your life, more it feels like a coming. You're coming into earth. Once you hit a certain point, you start feeling like you're going. Things are turning, you're leaving. So this is the natural cycle, natural clock, and it's fine. You're supposed to come and go. Life is supposed to come and go. Everything that you've ever had with you will come and go. Finances come and go. People that are your friends come and go. People who like you come and go. Everything comes and goes. Your family comes and goes. Everything is going to come and go. So it's to remind you. The impermanence of this life is to remind you of a deeper spiritual reason for living. If we put a lot of time into things that are just here to go, then it makes you wonder whether or not that was a wise idea. If I put all of my time and attention on one small thing that did not point back to the great mystery of life, did I live my life wisely, or did I waste my time? So the small things are fine to participate with, but if you do it with a disconnect to the reality of what's really going on, where these elements came from that you are playing with, and where did you come from? If you do it as kind of a tribute back to, not just a superficial tribute, but with a deep, introspective, contemplative, heartfelt, opening, expanding consciousness mindset to look for the actual true experience of where these came from, to touch at least the, that deeper divine power, and just a bit of it can be enough to really transform you. That's the goal, to reach, to hit, to connect with that, to commune with that transformational energy. So your pure consciousness, the absolute, so Shiva itself, does not change. But the consciousness that you feel yourself to be is constantly changing. So we don't call that consciousness, but that's how you interpret consciousness. It's really just mind interference, mind, heart, sense, all the different aspects. One of the reasons why life is built to look cyclical, nature, earth spinning, mind ruminating, thinking about something, routine, wake up in the morning, do what you got to do, go to bed, wake up in the morning, do pretty much the same thing over again, go back to bed. Everything in life is cyclical, including birth, life, death, and then birth will happen again. Everything in life is cyclical. That's just the natural law. That's the law of Prakriti. So we have to notice that everything is coming and going. That's the basic law. Everything's in a cycle. In order to not be so affected by the cycle, to get out of the cycle. When you're stuck in the cycle and you're not aware of the cosmic theme experientially, you're not connected and aware. You will pay too much attention to the character and get too sucked into the drama of life and have no awareness of the deeper, more profound things in life. So, when we do puja, sometimes people interpret it like, and there's different levels of interpretation, but sometimes people interpret it like, I am going to do a good act, punya. Makes sense in some level. But instead of that, try to see it as, I'm going to correct my understanding. Everything that I have, I am offering back because I don't own it in the first place. Your whole life should be lived like this. Everything in your life is a flower that you're offering to the divine, to the feet of the divine, pure consciousness. So the harmonium is an offering, the voice is an offering, the guitar or the drum is an offering. All of these objects are symbols of your life and everything that you're going to make an offering of. It's not to be taken lightly, which I'd say 99% of the time is taken lightly. The difference between someone who's doing practices and someone who's actually a practitioner is one of a deep understanding and a yearning to actually spiritually progress. There's a difference between someone who does practices and someone who's actually a spiritual practitioner. You'd think, well, a practitioner is one who does spiritual practices, so it's got to be the same, but it's not the same. probably more than 90% are people who do spiritual practices. These are people who actually do spiritual practices, but 90% of them are just people doing practices. Some hope for life gain, growth, change, good things happening. There's nothing to be said to be wrong about that. But then there's a different breed of spiritual practitioner who actually craves spiritual development, penetrating insight, a consciousness that just breaks through the Mayic fabric of everything. No element stands in the way. A consciousness that becomes so kind of pure that nothing can break it, nothing can distract it. So when we connect to Shiva, we're connecting to something that is obviously seen, but also unseen. And most look at it like a being somewhere. And we're going to do a series of things to get the blessings from God. That is a very kind of initial way of thinking about what God is, for instance. Is God that little that it's somewhere over there and not in your own heart, not in your own mind, not in your own cells, not in your own bones, not in your own blood? Is God that small that it's not within you? If it's infinite, it means not limited by time or by form or by separation or distance, not by sense of self nor lack thereof, not by the qualifications or adjectives or every single way that you want to look at life. Nothing blocks the divine presence. The moment that it is blocked or you don't think it can be there is the moment you do not believe that God is infinite. You believe that God is bound. That is your own bound consciousness projecting that on the eternal, and taking your own small reality and applying the rules to the divine. Maybe thinking that God is also bigger and can break them, but somehow you don't relate and think that the consciousness is eternal, ever present, not restricted by any aspect of this form. So we may be doing Shiva Puja, but it is, this reality is within you, it's around you, it's everywhere, always. It never goes away or comes more to a certain situation. It's always eternally present. When we do a puja, we are focusing on that being true. And yes, it may break through the collective consciousness a little bit more in that area and feel a little more true in that moment or in that temple or during that process or that meditation. But it's not because God was more present there. That's a small kind of idea. God is always equally present everywhere. But according to the Mayic rule, when the game is being played to not see that, then it feels more removed. It feels kind of like the divine presence is not a part of something, not a part of someone, not a part of your life, not a part of your heart, not a part of your karma, not a part of your workplace, not a part of your family. It doesn't feel like it's a part of things. And then you start thinking that it's only a part of a temple, only maybe in some part of the Vedas, some part of the Upanishads, the Vedanta. You might start thinking that the divine is only in a holy book. These are things that point to the divine not being only somewhere, but being everywhere. So when we do Shiva Puja, this is a way for us to wash our own consciousness. When you do Abhishekam, it means different things, but the most easy way of understanding, you are connecting your energy with something. In this case, water. It could be Panchamrit, could be whatever the case. You are pouring your attention onto the divine, and you're choosing not to break your focus. So you can look at them as representing different things, like the Ganga or your own energy, your own own mind, your own conscious flow or current. It can be whatever you want, but at the end of the day, your energy, what you know and don't know, is kind of amalgamated or a part of what your offering is. And as you offer to a consecrated object or something that doesn't hold that ignorant energy, then it's like our ignorance is just breaking away as we make the offering. So when you have a consecrated object, it's kind of a miraculous part of Maya, to put it that way. It doesn't matter what the symbol is, it matters whether or not it's consecrated. Consecrated means at least one being did not see any ignorance there. Usually that's an enlightened being, because that's their always on, so to speak, way of experiencing. So when something is blessed or consecrated, it's a part that doesn't kind of fall victim to Maya. So we deal with inaccurate feelings, inaccurate beliefs, inaccurate thoughts all the time. So when we're interacting with something that is a conscious kind of force, then it's breaking through our own ignorance. So everything that we offer can mean something different, and it does, and I usually go through explaining more, but we're not tonight just because it takes a lot of time. We miss more things that we could be focusing on. But essentially everything we offer is some part of ourself. So everything is connected to some part of ourself. It's not someone else, it's not nature without you. You're included. Every little piece of something here is a part of you. And so many times when somebody says, like, I want to offer myself to the divine, how do I do that? There's easy ways, but you might not find them easy. And then there's hard ways, which you might find easy, or you could find them impossible. It kind of depends. Some of the most simplest things can be the most difficult because you might have religious blocks. You might, for instance, like somebody who might be more Christian, who can't receive a blessed apple from a Sadguru because they're too afraid they're losing themselves. It's an apple and it's blessed for you. It's like, it means helping you. But it's like people have blocks. So sometimes the most simple thing, which is take the apple, eat the apple, turns into, something that the person's most afraid of because they've built up such a monstrous idea of what this thing might be. It's the curse of imagination and mostly spiritual disconnection. If someone could feel, they would feel the reality there. If someone can't, they can't. So what we're dealing with throughout our whole life, many incarnations, but through this life, is our ignorance, which doesn't mean you don't know something about life, like, small ideas like what's the population of Earth, or, any other type of political things or historical things. Those are not necessary for the spiritual path. You don't need to learn any of that. Ignorance is, do you feel separate from everything? And do you think those things are different things from you? Therefore, and where is God in all of this? If you believe that two or more things exist, then you are ignorant. That is the definition of avidya. When you do not experience everything to be yourself, you do not experience Shiva. That is the problem that makes you suffer. We do puja because it says, okay, that's the problem. We don't experience Shiva, so let's attune to Shiva. So, without taking more time talking about it, but that is the purpose. First, to make a puja useful, you need to recognize your ignorance. If you don't do that, it doesn't go very far. We hope more than what we're willing to put out. So we have to be willing to recognize our own ignorance, find all the little parts and pieces. The more that you become self-aware of just your personal ignorant parts, the more that you can offer those over. If you don't see where you're ignorant, you can't offer those parts over. And it's not enough just to say, yes, I feel separate, therefore I offer that. You need to really get into that. It's like an iceberg. You've got to just you got to get to the center of it. You need to keep chipping away and get to the center. You cannot just say, yes, I'm separate, there's my ignorance, I offer that. You need to become very sincere and realize all those crazy protective mechanisms that keep your ego intact. That is why you don't just enlighten in a moment. It doesn't happen. And there's lots of levels of consciousness that you can reach that you might falsely perceive to be enlightened, that are, feel to be everywhere. But that's the trick in this world. There's so many levels of consciousness, and each one has to be understood and find the ignorance in each part. Maybe more wisdom, but find the ignorance inside of that wisdom, and you cast aside that alleged wisdom that other people might find as wise, and then you become truly wise. And then when you become truly wise, you find the ignorance there and you realize, oh, I wasn't as wise as I thought. So then you become more truly wise, and this keeps happening. So meditation is proper focus on what really matters. It's not a thing you just sit and relax. I hear that said so much. Just sit and relax, calm your mind. That's not meditation. That's the beginning. That's what you tell people when you can't go further. Meditation is focusing on the absolute principle. But if you can't find it, the first step for you is calm down. Find some peace, find some connection, find some flow. Once you calm down, you open up more, you expand, your boundaries diffuse. You have a harder time telling if you are a solid object in an environment, or if you are the same as the environment. You can't quite detect a boundary. It's like a make-believe boundary. It's like, yeah, there's a alleged boundary, but you don't identify with that meaning anything pertaining to yourself. It means something to the body, it means something to the mind, it means something to the heart, it means something to the senses, it means something to the forces of the elements and the action principles through the mind and the conscious force aspect. But it doesn't somehow mean anything to you. You don't relate to it that way. So there's so much potential when you do a puja. It's not a thing to do to get good karma and to just erase the bad. Yes, that happens. And I even talk about it that way a lot because it's just easier. But the true way to focus on the absolute is by recognizing your ignorance, your separation. It's an experience, it's not a thought. Thoughts are there too, but the thoughts happen because you actually authentically experience the separation. That's the illness, that is the disease. You're on earth because this is a spiritual rehabilitation program, so to speak, to put it in a more human way of thinking. But don't exact quote me on that. I'd use different words. But in a way, you're here because you need spiritual rehabilitation, and you need psychological rehabilitation, and you need elemental rehabilitation. How many actions of your life pollute the environment? And do you care or not care? How many actions of your life are a part of the deforestation process that are taking a home away from an animal because you want something, like to build on an addition to your house? You have to think about what it is that you do, and yes, it's going to have impact. You probably can't be completely non-impactful, but the idea, in a negative way, but the idea is to do your best to try to manage it. And everything that you do, elementally, personally, relationally, financially, governmentally, taxes and such. Just every aspect of your life you have to try to work out to balance with proper understanding at the core of why you're doing it. So when we do this puja, we don't really get too stuck in a lot of the formalities. We'll get sometimes more formal, less formal, mostly less formal, but there's a big reason for that. Getting sucked into the formalities often makes somebody so paralyzed by formalities they don't ever contemplate on anything deeper. It's a routine that they go through the actions of, and they're hoping for the best. It's like popping a coin in a slot machine and hoping that they win a lot back. From the little amount of effort they did, they're hoping they get a lot back in return. It's like a pretty unfair investment kind of banking idea. This idea that we're entitled, that we should do something so small and the divine should give us back so much more than we actually deserve. Just think of the warped mentality that is. So we should not care about getting back in return, and we should just put our all into something just because you should. No reason, just because you should. You should put your all into everything that you do. That is considered a spiritual way of living. It's not lazy, it's not cutting corners, it's putting your all into something. Even if your all just isn't as good as the next person, at least you put your all into it. Someone else can take over where you aren't good enough, but their skill sets can finish the mission. But at least you tried, you did your all. But if you don't put your all into it, then it's a whole question of tamas and rajas. Typically, tamas specifically being highlighted there. So when you do the puja, this is a time to really focus on, like, I don't even know really what I am, and everything that I offer of myself, I don't technically own it. So even when we say something like you want to protect your heart or protect your feelings, whose feelings? Whose heart? If you don't even know if this is your body or not, meaning you can't take it with you once it dies, then it wasn't your body to begin with. If you don't have full ownership or control over something, it's not yours. You can't even control your mind fully, so you can't even claim ownership over the mind. It seems to just kind of be doing what it's doing. Like a cat is going to be a cat, a bird's going to be a bird. When those two collide, you'll see what happens. Maybe okay, may not be okay, but that's the nature. So your mind does what it does, your senses do what it does, and when they collide in a certain way, sometimes it gets you stuck, sometimes it's not a big deal. And so we have to better understand, at least from some simple principle, like all of the elements that you feel are you are borrowed, is a easier way to maybe focus on the divine attributes. Like maybe, everything, see it as property of the divine. A long time ago, I used to tell people to do that. Imagine everything's wearing a t-shirt that says property of the divine. That was like, I don't know if people still do that, but back in high school and college, you had that, so you didn't lose your shirts, property of the school, and your name's on it, but it's like, it's not really yours. So if you see it as everything that you see is got a hidden stamp that says property of the divine, including all that you have and all that you own, even your relationships, even your thoughts, your good ones, bad ones, your emotions, your everything, your karma, everything, property of the divine. So then it begs the question, what are you? And maybe you don't even own yourself. So just to add, because I feel like I always do with some of these statements, but just to make sure we're clear, when you don't own yourself, it doesn't mean that you can take the get out of jail free card approach to life, do whatever you want to do and say, I didn't do it. That's not going to work. If the actions coming from you are not divinely orchestrated, and they're just part of a fractured psyche or harmed emotions or something that needs deeper resolution, you have to fix it. You have to take responsibility first and act appropriately before you can state divine is in control. If you don't reflect the purity of the divine, you cannot state divine is in control. You can think about it, but your actions and your thoughts and your emotions should reflect it. So we are going to do just 108 names of Shiva. We're going to offer a few other things first, just to get things moving. So first we'll just do an invocation. This is to kind of, the word itself is a whole Dharma talk, but so if God is everywhere, you can't invoke, you can't devoke, it's just there. If you don't see it, then it's a relationship. If you don't feel it in you, then you got to call in what you might believe a higher power could live there and come help you. And if you feel some purity within you, you might feel some of the divine rising, and you might say, okay, the divine is within me, I feel it, and then you can evoke, pull it forward from deep within. You could do both, but it's also everywhere, and there's no sense to invoke or evoke. But if you're not in that state of consciousness, that's useless. You have to really be in that state of consciousness. If you're not there, you have to invoke, which means draw upon the higher consciousness that does exist and is always with you, around you, through you. And you can evoke, you can express through yourself the higher divine traits. So we will make the offerings. It doesn't matter so much even what they are. I'm not going through explaining them. Just have your intention to connect to whatever the blessings are that come through it. And the primary thing that we're going to do today is just to focus on, this kind of, maybe I'll put it personally, but to wash ourselves clean of all ignorance, all ways of thinking and feeling. So we'll have that as an intention, and then everything we offer will be a part of that. And as just a quick addition, many times when people do puja, they see it as something to do to fulfill their desires. I would only say one thing: if you fulfill your desires, why? Because it makes you happy. So doesn't it make sense to skip that and just go straight to the happiness? Straight to enlightenment? Why go through a whole checklist of things? If you have to, you have to, but why? It's a good contemplation point when you do anything spiritual. You can always want more things, but the more you want, the more it trains you to want. The desires don't necessarily die down as you grow up, you just get different ones. Desires usually just build more desires. If you're going to have them, at least for something higher, growth-oriented, but be very careful with the desires, because it may have to come true. And then in 10 or 20 years, you might say, oh geez, I don't want this desire anymore, but you start to see how you have to go through it before you can be done with it. Whereas it could have just been let go of initially. And so anytime you can, try to bypass desires and go straight to the absolute. This is probably an approach that most spiritual seekers aren't looking for, quite honestly. But that's the question. If you want desires fulfilled, just ask why. Typically it's because you want to be happy or fulfilled. So let's just skip it and go straight to happiness and fulfillment, which is enlightenment. There's no point to stop short and go all these infinite, endless places. Have infinite experiences so that you can get a little burst of happiness each time. Let's just skip it all and go straight to the Supreme. Okay, so we'll just start with a little invocation, and then we'll just make some offerings.
साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः.
And with this, I'm going to use the Arati lamp, and I'm actually going to burn camphor as I do this. So this is a kind of a deeper intention to burn out all that is impure. So we won't have an Arati lamp after, because it's going to go with, but think of it as this is with the philosophy of first you burn out, use the fire to burn out the coal, but once the coal is burnt out, the fire is gone too. So you use all your good karma, your fire, to burn out the coal, the lower negative karma. And then once it's all gone, then this whole duality is gone. So we're gonna do it this way today. And while the energy is still here with this temporary flame, just like our lives, temporary mind, take the energy while you can. Use it wisely. You can have an intention for it to purify your sense organs, your organs of action, your life, your direction, your consciousness, your emotions. Because it is such a big one for purifying the ego, leaving no residue behind, I'm going to offer some black rice. The purpose is more the symbolism of dropping the negative seeds of karma that sprout, that grow. So you can offer different colors for different reasons, so we're just going to be offering black connected to this primary intention. Different intentions can be linked, but this is what we're doing today. So we want to all connect to this and just imagine and even think of like all the negativity or negative things in your past, your negative emotions, limited states of consciousness, limited views of life and the world, all of your incarnational cycles, just everything. We'll have an intention that it's all linked to the rice, and then we'll make the offering together. Anything that is an impediment to pure consciousness, to the realization of pure consciousness we offer. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Akshatam samarpayami.
We need to do this. Yeah. So we have some Panchamrit, so we're going to offer this on behalf of everyone, making this offering, purifying our whole being, becoming pure.
Om Namah Shivaya. Panchamritam samarpayami.
Offer some water. I guess we could make this one, the link will be the Ganga. Offering the Ganga to Shiva.
Om Namah Shivaya. Ganga Snanam samarpayami. Om Namah Shivaya. Chandanam samarpayami. Om Namah Shivaya. Sinduram samarpayami.
And actually offer behind it. I'm gonna offer behind it. So it doesn't overflow.
Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
It was lovely to spend this time with you and connect in this way. May you feel the grace and blessings of Shiva with you always. And Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste, and we will see you again soon.